Hey, Harm, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you here in the interview.
Yeah, my pleasure too.
The last time we saw each other in physical form, at least, was at an event in Maastricht.
Yeah, we
RegTech.
shared the stage.
We shared the state indeed, and it was around RegTech, organized by Holland FinTech. So very interesting. But now you are also a writer, and
Yep.
you wrote something very interesting about regulatory reporting. And I guess the party that cannot be missed in this equation on this story is the regulator. And I think you've got a very particular view on that. Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, what's the role of the regulator in a regulatory reporting project? Well, they specify what you should report, so they are quite important. And what is different from other projects is that they are not on the table. Normally, you have the guy or girl who specifies what you have to do. You can ask them questions, but these are people who are in faraway buildings in Berlin or Stuttgart or Paris, and they specify what you should do. But there's always room for interpretation, and that makes it difficult.
Mhm. So that's, I guess, what you meant with your sentence while you were using Johan Cruyff as one of the famous football trainers. Don't see it when you get it, right?
Yeah. What I meant with that is that when you start a project like that, it seems quite straightforward. You have to send in some data to the regulator, but when you start looking closer, then it turns out that you have to have all kinds of consistency checks and all kinds of
Mhm.
quality checks, and then suddenly it turns out to be a lot more difficult than you first thought. And that is what I meant with you when you start to understand it when you see it.
I
Yeah,
thought it was a was a funny one actually.
yeah.
But what would be your suggestion then to make this situation better?
Well, engage. These people, the regulators are people too, and they are willing to help. That is what we found out.
Mhm.
We're working with clients in implementation projects, and they all organize all kinds of sessions to help you out in what you should do in the reporting,
Mhm.
and you have contact persons there. So that is the main thing. What you often see is that there's a sort of distance between the regulator and the banks, so the reporting parties, and it's not necessary because you're trying to achieve the same goal, and you should work together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And somehow do you think that's then the core of RegTech, or how do you see that relation?
Well, the core of RegTech is, of course, the whole objective of the thing is that you try to minimize risk. The whole thing was set
Mhm.
up because we had a big banking crisis, and it turned out that people didn't know what they were doing, and the central banks didn't know what the banks were doing. So the core of RegTech is that there's more insight into what is happening, and that is beneficial not only for the central banks but certainly for the banks themselves. So it's in both their interests to work together and get good results.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And so that's what RegTech means for you.
Yeah.
Interesting, maybe. I'm just wanting to challenge you on something. So, what if you have to rank the following words in terms of importance? See, innovation, collaboration, regulation, or user experience?
Yeah, I would say, of course, the main objective is that you meet the regulations, so that would be first.
Okay.
That is the core. And then I would say the collaboration would be the second. And well, yeah, I must admit it is not the sexiest thing, regulatory reporting. So, yeah, user experience and innovation are maybe a bit behind, but well, you have to innovate because you have to be able to meet the ever-changing demands. So there has to be a certain amount of innovation. But I think the collaboration and regulation are the most important here.
No, a fair point. Fair point. So I think in RegTech there's always this duality, right? Because you got regulations and technology. Where would you
Yeah.
see yourself, Harm? More on the rec or more on the tech side?
Uh, I work for Dex Data Explorers, and we are a supplier of a solution that where you can produce regulatory reporting with. So
Mhm.
I would be on the tech side. I think I'm not I don't have the last word on regulations.
No, I understand. I understand. So at the end of your article, you come to a point where you say data management is more than a buzzword. What do you mean by that?
Well, what you often see in big companies is that somewhere someone, and mostly in the IT departments, says, well, we should start a data management project because
Mhm.
that's important. And then everybody in management nods, yeah, you're right, and we should do that. But they don't have a clue because it's a sort of abstract concept, data management. If I would ask you, okay, Koen, what do you think of data management? You will always say, well, it's very important, but you wouldn't know what it is, what to do with it, I think. So, and that is true for a lot of people. And so what you have to, the first thing in a data management project is that you explain what you're actually trying to achieve. And what you try to achieve is that you
Mhm.
know which data you have in your company, where it comes from, who is the owner of the data, so who defines what you store, what you have. A very important concept in data management is data quality. And well, of course, everybody says data quality is very important, still don't have a clue. But
Uh-huh.
when you then ask people, did you ever encounter problems with clients because of that you had the wrong information, then suddenly understands what you're talking about. So that is very important that
Mhm.
you try to make it into something relatable, what the people experience in their own work, and
Yeah.
then you have something that you can work with.
Mhm. In my past experience, we often said rubbish in, rubbish out.
Yeah, exactly,
And,
exactly.
and, and that's something very real, because I
Yeah,
agree with you that when you talk about data models, it's very nice on paper, but in reality, often the more legacy and heritage at the bank side makes it very difficult to have a clean and, well, a data driven setup by design. It's just very difficult, I think.
yeah, that's really true. And I once was on a training, and someone said, "Well, to err is human, but to really make a mess of it, you really need computers." And that is exactly what is happening in companies. They optimized the rubbish out process.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So how do you deal with it by your own company, Dex? Because I think that's a huge challenge for you as well.
Yeah, uh, um, exactly. What we do is we have a solution that can produce all these reports for these regulations,
Hmm.
and what the regulator also provides are all kinds of validation rules. Quality rules for the data, and what we do in our what we do in our company is that we have built those validation rules also in our package. So the client can do all his validations in advance before he sends it in. And
Hmm.
that is really a much more efficient process. And that it really helps people to send in the data with the right quality.
Yeah, I see. I see. No, very interesting. And all this data quality stuff, is that something that keeps you awake at night?
Um, well, it is something that deserves a lot of attention, but I'm a good sleeper.
Ah, that's nice. That's nice. Maybe one last question, Harm, is like, why should people contact you? I think that's an important message to give to the audience. I mean, RegTech, it's all about collaboration. So,
Yeah.
what can they call you for?
Well, like I said, we have the DEX regulatory suite, and we offer solutions for a whole range of regulations. So, in banks, you have big regulations, are the CoRep and the FinRep. I think most people will know them. In insurance, you have solvency, you have all kinds of regulations for pension funds. And a new one coming out this year is SFTR. I won't. Well, a new regulation is SFTR. They call it the Beast. It is something in securities financing. And what we do is we develop solutions for these regulations, and we have quite a broad offering at the moment. And so what they can call us for is that we can offer a solution for these reporting challenges. Yeah, my article was called "The Challenges of Regulatory Reporting." Well, those are challenges, and we can help companies with that.
All right, very good. Now, I must admit that what you said earlier, that you're more tech, your last funding bit was more rec. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. I try. I try.
I would like to thank you very much for this interview.
Yeah,
likewise, I'd like to thank you also for the contribution to the book. So for the audience, if you want to know more about the book, you can basically follow on the link that will come on screen right now. And thank you very much again, Harm. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you very much.